at the time of working with 5 sections issues. And so I would prefer to be in the room.
Yeah.
For information, I'm making a presentation at 10:30 in the other room. And I have 3 slides about the book.
There's one behind.
Yes.
Yeah,
The next room. And
You can start later, and I'm really sorry because I answered your email. I don't know where you have it, but I can reply again, so you have my answer. If I take an answer,
so
Everyone trouble with Do we have a host?
I'm not registered.
Do you know do we have a host?
The host don't belong to the delegation.
Host online. Oh,
I'm
where's the
Problem is that we are not comfortable.
It should be start at 9:30.
And when you have
But-
you got their email address.
Oh,
And there was only one Spanish official, well, I tested 2 weeks before, 2 weeks ago, not today, actually yesterday. And
Yes.
there was only one
No worries.
person.
I was going and we will find each other.
I sent that person an email.
Where are you from?
But 3 weeks ago, never got a response.
The organization. Oh.
So in that case, when you connect to the meeting page, when you scroll to the participants, and when you have, for example, my name. if you-
I have my own business in Tech, so we do
The
research.
the email address.
So-
on that page, and you can get that. So you can get the request for everybody. And I'm not registered under my name directly, I'm not registered the name of my
Yeah.
company, which
Okay.
is security consultant. So my email address, something, .sec.consulting. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
And that's. Oh, wow.
So I have a slide saying, what is under the hood?
Yeah, it's UK at the moment. I've only been set up for
Only
3 months.
information
I
that
was
is
working there.
publicly available,
So the UK is
I believe it's the right
leading
direction.
age assurance policy.
I believe it's the right way to do that.
Yeah.
Congrats.
I left because, yeah.
School expanded.
No, it's an interesting place to go. There were 2 main reasons. One of them was I want to move abroad at some point. And you have to be in the UK if you want to go. And the other one is just sort of,
Oh, let's
I
stop.
want more freedom, like say my own things.
This does not work.
I think it's worth the light is on.
Oh, yes, it works. Okay.
So let's start. So welcome guys. I don't know if we have a host here. It's a bit chaos in the morning, sorry for that. And I just joined age check certification scheme last week. So I'm really glad to host this our first sticking issue this morning. So our topic is about definition of age assurance. So I see everyone has a paper on your desk. So please feel free to write down any ideas or what you thought about each definition or each questions. So in this session, we have like 8 questions about the definition of age assurance. Do you know these questions before? Okay, so
In the program, in the face of the event, you have the program and you have the question. It's very helpful.
there's always some posters and they have all the questions on that. So let's we can start with the first question, which is, what are the implications of using the term age assurance as an umbrella term compared to using distinct terms like age verification, age estimation, or age interference?
I mean, I can kick us off if helpful.
Yes, please.
Sure. I think for me, it's very useful to have a catch-all term because there's a lot of misunderstanding, I think, and confusion that happens in age assurance. People, or if you use the term age verification, for example, or age estimation, it's hard to specify exactly what you mean. So having one catch-all term for any measure designed to gain a bit of confidence into the age of a particular individual, I think is very helpful. So I'm quite in favor of using the term age assurance. I guess the one downside is that it's kind of where you set the bar, because if anything can be classified as age assurance, including kind of like a tick box exercise, then the term becomes almost meaningless. But in general, I'm pro having age assurance as a catch-all definition.
Yeah.
I have a different opinion.
That's good.
I think the word is not adequate. Basically, the discussion is related to 27566 standard, and the full first wording is not age assurance, it's age assurance systems, which is not the same. And these systems doesn't need to have assurance. They need to control an age threshold or an age range of a person. And the problem is that at the moment, for those that have access to the document from what we would find, it is that they have one dimension to measure the assurance. It's about some level of assurance which are completely crazy. For example, the highest level is you may have a misclassification of 1% out of 10,000, even when using age estimation. Do you believe that it is reasonable to have that level? I don't believe so. The next level underneath is 1 of 1,000. Do you believe it's reasonable to have this level? No, I don't believe it's reasonable. The problem is that there are two things. I'm using a vocabulary which is in working group 5. We have an age attribute, which is an attribute related to the age of the person. And you need to make sure that the value of the age attribute is correct and that it relates to the right individual. And the word we are using is binding. So binding the attribute to the right individual. And suppose that you have a very good accuracy on the value of the attribute, and you have a low or no accuracy on the binding, then the assurance level is 0. And the problem is that relying party, for many reasons, needs to control the age of the person and make sure that the age relates to what the person is willing to do. And so that's why there are many age-related control to be done. And age control systems would be a more adequate wording, because the goal is to control the age, not to know the age of the person. You don't need to know whether the person is, for example, 18.5 years old or 17.2 years old. It is really irrelevant. You want to know whether the person meets the age control criteria, and age control would be more adequate wording. So it was a reason. Also, when you work in standardization, the most important section is section 3, which defines the wording. And the question is, are we going to define edge assurance systems or edge control systems? And you cannot say it is an umbrella term under which you can have edge verification or edge estimation. It's not an appropriate way in ISO to have a definition. So, because you will need to look at two other definitions, we can be AZ, and it does not really help you much. I have worked on that definition, and basically, I have looked about what could be an edge control system. And the definition I came with was a system, because the lab project system that enforces edge-related eligibility decision and is resistant against non-vulnerabilities. The non-vulnerabilities is hiding the fact that the edge-related attribute should be associated with the right individual. So, and there are many vulnerabilities. For example, using edge estimation, you can use a deep fake video instead of presenting your face. Or worse, you can have a collusion between individuals, where at the time of the presentation, it's not the face of the right individual that is presented, but the face of an adult. So saying that the system needs to enforce an edge eligibility decision, and the decision will be to say, I grant the access or I deny the access. There can be only two decisions, three decisions. And knowing that you can enforce the decision and know that the decision will be resistant against non-vulnerabilities is important. So that's the reason why, as a working group 5 member, I have proposed to change the wording edge assurance system by edge control system. Well, maybe it's not the best wording, but I can say it's better than edge assurance system.
Can I come back on that really quickly?
Yeah, sure.
I think I agree with almost everything you said. I agree about the percentages. I agree that you have this question of accuracy, the question of binding. There are more questions like the quality of the evidence that the age assurance or age verification or age control is taking place on. What I'm less clear on is when we're specifically talking about the word age assurance versus age control. I think I'm less clear because assurance for me means a level of confidence in a person's age. And I don't think that all age assurance is about getting to a binary decision or getting to a precise decision about, as you say, about the exact age of the user. And control to me implies, I guess age assurance can also be used to just gain some level of confidence into a user's age so that you can provide them with age appropriate experiences. It's not always about age gating, yes or no, is this person old enough to access a particular service? So I guess what I'm saying is I think I agree with everything that you're saying, but I'm still not quite clear on why the term age assurance doesn't work, but the term age control does work. And I think I don't have much experience in drafting standards at all. My background is at Ofcom, working on age assurance policy there, and then I've gone on to set up my own business. But for me, if there's a kind of established term which is already being widely used, I think you'd probably need quite a strong reason to change that term if that term has already been used for over a decade in this space.
Well, yeah, I've been working in standardization areas for a long time, and particularly in the context of Europe. And in some cases, if you have a wording that is used in a directive from European Commission or a regulation from the Commission, standards related to that try to avoid to use the same terminology. They say it's legal terminology, and we are working in a technical area. So we don't use necessarily the same wording and the same terms. And since, for example, since There's a good thing. Regulations in Europe have a section definition, and you have a definition for some wording. And ISO is not permitted or does not permit, or SEM does not permit to use the same wording with a different definition in a SEM or ISO document. Because they say this word is reserved for the regulations or regulators, and we don't use the same wordings for us. So it means it's better to use a wording that is different. Now, if you are from Ofcom, you are?
I was until 3 months ago, but yeah.
Okay, so you know well.
Yeah.
So you know the OSB,
Yes.
and one of the complaints I have with the OSB is that there is no definition section. And you can find in a loose definition in page 130 or 230. Well, you should have, well, the bill should have a definition section.
I think there are definitions in the bill, in the Act.
Well, they say it's an umbrella term for
age verification.
yes,
age
yes.
information.
So as I told you, it's not a definition that is acceptable in ISO. So you need to have a different wording. When you have the word assurance, it means confidence, basically. So, but it's not called edge confidence systems. It's called edge assurance systems. So, but the problem is that relating party needs to control edges. I would not say the edge. If I want to be very accurate, if you say edge thresholds or edge limits, and I don't think assurance is the best word. That's a problem.
Oh, all right. All right. Thank you for your contributions to the first questions, and let's move on to the second question. So the second question is, how does the term age assurance align with the goals of standardization efforts such as ISO or IEC 23756 in the context of age-related technologies? Is there anyone have any ideas online about the second questions? Or we can just move on to the third question. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the third questions, which is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of adopting age control as an alternative term to age assurance? I think we may have more ideas about the advantage and disadvantages.
Yeah, I guess the disadvantage for me would just be a change in, like, for the industry, a change in terminology that is already kind of established in common parlance, I think. But I think you can speak more to the advantages, perhaps.
Well, if you look at the companies that make the invitation, one of them is called ACCS, and age check. Between age check and age control, I would say the difference is quite low. But age check, I think, is very good. I wouldn't like to adopt that wording because it's too close to the name of the company. But age check would have been the same idea behind the fact that you need to check the age or you need to control the age. It doesn't mean to know the age. So I will not propose age check, but I have sympathy with that wording.
Yeah, I think some people say the term age assurance might imply a personal system that verify. On the other hand, age control might.
It's not an alternative, it's a replacement. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Basically, we are not going to change the OSB, for example. age assurance will be there. But if the outcome later on wants to refer to what he called an internationally recognized standard, he could say, please refer to how you can do age control, because the document gives you more information. At the moment, the OSB does not say exactly how you should do these controls. They tell you much, 300 pages even, and you don't know how to do the control.
So in the Act, age verification means any measure designed to verify the exact age of users of a regulated service.
Which is wrong, because you don't need to know the exact age.
Yeah,
That's a problem.
And then age estimation means any measure designed to estimate the age or age range of users of a regulated service. But then within the guidance for Part 5 services, which is, I can't remember how long it is, about 100 pages-ish, it sets out different types of age assurance that may be highly effective at doing this when implemented appropriately. So, but I agree with you, it doesn't kind of prescribe specifically, this is the exact way in which you should establish the age of your users.
The criticism applies, for example, I'm from France, and we have a French law that was established in last summer. And with our system, when you have a law, you cannot enforce the law before there is a decree that gives you more details about how to do what to do. So at the moment, they say you must make sure as a social network provider, so social service network provider, that the individual is above 18, 90, 70, no, 15. They don't tell you how to do. And they say there will be another committee outcome that will tell you how to do that. But at the moment, outcome has not published anything. So the decree should refer to the work from outcome, but cannot do that. Now, so the problem is similar in different countries, where the laws say you shall make the control, the check, verification, the estimation. They don't tell you how to do it. That's the situation. Now, maybe the goal from a regulator is to get an assurance, but the goal from a right party is to make control, even if the regulator is not doing anything. An example that happened in the US is that a social network was attacked by a family where a girl had problems because she connected on a social network and they got in contact with an adult, and the adult killed her. So, or violated her. So there is no law at the moment that asks for that. Maybe after that event there will be a law, but there is no. So voluntarily, companies that are responsible of social network are attempting to make this kind of controls, but there is no law that obliges to do that at this moment. So I have no problem to take age assurance in the law and to say from a more technical point of view how you can achieve age control. So I don't see that, well, we need to replace age assurance. I need to use the right technical wording in ISO documents. And they don't need to exactly coincide with the wording with some laws.
But Roy online says, in terms of this advantage and disadvantage, he said there are no alternatives. There are two parts of the same solution. What will be key is minimizing the number of mailing stages has to be assured as opposed to the number of times age has to be controlled. Decentralized ID can play a key role here, but we need to consider it a minor to understand the purpose of the ID. Yeah.
The others in the room
Well,
have views on this.
I don't believe that you need a deed for doing that. It's completely useless. So there is no need to understand what the purpose of a deed is. In fact, there are solutions, and one of the solutions is being proposed by Spain at the moment. And I don't know the details, but it's possible to achieve that solution without to use any deed. So the miner doesn't need to understand the purpose of a deed. It's a silly question, I would say.
Oh, thank you for your answering for that. Okay, let's move to the fourth question, shall we? So the fourth question is, how does the choice of terminology impact public perception and understanding of age-related technologies, particularly in terms of trust and transparency? Which I showed the questions.
I would suggest to find a synonym for control, for example, because in terms of public perception, the word control is going to have negative feelings, because control is a stronger word when compared to assurance, for example, or verification or estimation, because people are afraid of this kind of systems because they think that they are going to impact their anonymity in the internet, for example, or that they are going to be tracked or profiled. So perhaps the word control is more accurate in terms of the technical solutions, but it's going to be a problem regarding the public perception. So perhaps we should find a synonym that doesn't imply this negative implication always associated with the word control. Perhaps it's a strong wording in terms of public perception. So I think that policymakers and regulatory bodies are not going to like this wording if they have to use it, because it can be perceived as something too strong. So, for example, is less tricky regarding this question.
I agree. It's something that at Ofcom we have to think about a lot. There was this perception that state actors are pushing surveillance or controlling technologies and things like that. And I think the word control really feeds into that narrative. I don't really mind what the word is that is landed upon. The reason I would favor assurance is just because it's really there and already established. And I think it's it feels very neutral to me. No one has really strong emotions, as far as I'm aware, associated with the word assurance. And I think check would also be fine, probably. As you say, it's the name of the age check certification.
That's well, I will tell you what I wouldn't like that. Because if people are using age check and they see that age check certification scheme company, they will believe that they need to do certification and they don't need to do this way. And they don't need to have the services from that company as well. They can, but they don't need to. So they could create some confusion in the UK particularly. So that's the reason why I'm not in favor of age check. But the concept is roughly the same. I agree.
There's also a company called Age Checks and a company called Verify My Age, and companies in this space are going to be using these words and this terminology, I think. And obviously, hopefully, the standard is a more a broader thing than any specific jurisdiction. So maybe,
you know, if we are going to keep the wording age assurance system in the ISO standard, we would need to define that wording in section 3. And the question is, should we copy and paste the definition which is in the OSD, or should we have our own definition? The second may create a problem. So if we don't use the wording, we don't have a problem, because we don't need to copy and paste the definition from the OSD. And And it makes a very good difference between what is at the level of a legislation, edge assurance, and what is the level of a technical document, edge control systems, which is a system able to control whether an edge threshold is reached or not reached and things like that.
I see what you're saying. I suppose there the issue is what you're saying is these are fundamentally the same concept or similar concepts, and we're deliberately using different words to describe them because of the quirks of one being in a UK act and the other being in an international standard. And I think that is likely to cause as much confusion as it saves hassle potentially. But
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for answering the first question. So the fifth question or topic will be: should industry standards prioritize clarity and specificity by favoring more commonly used terms like age verification, or is there value in introducing new terminology like age assurance? I also typed the question in the chat box. Any ideas, or we can
That adding new terminology to the standard is not a value by itself.
Yeah.
It's a value that new terminology is needed because there are nuances there that have to be considered. So it's not the value by itself, but if the conclusion of the debate is that a new terminology is needed, it's not going to be a problem. But these kind of nuances are very complicated to reflect in a final wording. So it has to be fully considered because it has a lot of implications.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think this is a very interesting questions. Okay, so we have 3 questions left. The 6th question is: what are the potential legal and regulatory implications of using different terms to describe age-related processes, especially concerning compliance and accountability? Potential legal and regulatory implications.
Well, I think it's very easy because, as I told, you have the regulations and you have other organizations supposed to tell how to address what the regulation is saying. You need to apply technical measures, and from the technical point of view, edge control is an appropriate wording. So it doesn't prevent the legislation to speak about edge assurance. And when they are, for example, the Ofcom of the ICO in UK can tell, well, this standard is appropriate for section such and such, and you can use that. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
It's making the difference between legal terms and technical terms.
Mm-hmm.
I guess one challenge to that might be, so I think the reason there's not a really specific definition in the Act is because it wanted to stay tech neutral, to leave space for technical innovation, to enable companies to comply using methodologies which don't currently exist, which leaves space for technical improvement. And if you're saying we're using a different term because we want a more precise technical definition of what this particular thing is, there's a risk that you're kind of stifling the ability for companies to innovate in this space, which I think does potentially matter.
The goal is still to make age control, whatever method you use. The goal of the company is to control the age of the individuals.
Or assure the age, or check the age, or
Check the age will be the right wording as we spoke about before. It's not check the age, check an age range to be very precise. An age threshold. Because as I mentioned, and we agreed, we don't know to know the age of the person. We know whether it complies with some threshold. Singular approval.
yeah. Yeah, I guess for me, it's not about like how the technology functions specifically. It's about, does it successfully achieve the outcome that you wanted to achieve? That's kind of more important than defining a specific technological process. If that makes sense.
Well, is what anyone online want to say anything about this question? Or we can move on to the 7th question, which is, how do various stakeholders, including policymakers, technologists, and end users, perceive and interpret the term age assurance, age verification, and age control within their respective contexts? It's like saying different people, different roles, how do they interpret these terms differently? Well, I guess not, we are only one people per person. Yeah, so
I don't think there is no debate, no real debate between the difference between age verification and estimation. Well, whether you speak about age assurance or age control, there are two main categories of mechanism behind that, able to achieve the goal of controlling an age verification or age estimation. Age estimation is based, using the current technology, on biometrics characteristic of the individual. Usually it's the face. You could have the voice as an additional, not an alternative, but as additional biometric control. But even adding the voice, well, there are possible frauds that can happen. And in any case, the accuracy of the estimation will be not so good as the accuracy of an age verification method, which may be based on a date of birth of an official document, or maybe based on the possession of something like a credit card, which, for example, may prove that the individual is above 18 if the bank that has issued a credit card has made the adequate verifications that the individual was indeed above 18. So it can be based on an inferred object, like a credit card, or it can be based on a document. When I mean document, it can be a physical document or an electronic document that bears the age of the individual. So there are two basic technologies, and nobody has presented a third technology at this time.
Yeah, but there's some confusion about the terms, because in the European legislation, you have the term age verification. For example, in the audiovisual directive, you have age verification, and in the DSA, you have age verification. But sometimes you find providers that are solving the problem with age estimation, not with even verification, because sometimes it's like age assurance and age verification are interchangeable. So there are some confusions here about the terms and about the wording, because many providers are relying on estimation, saying that they are verifying. So
I know the ambiguity.
Yes.
I remember that when I was working 40 years ago in the security area, the first ever standard that has been published by ISO 21 was the security framework, where we defined the vocabulary term for security people. And the problem arises because we are using different terms with different meanings. So we could not understand each other. At this moment, I don't believe that the wording to be used is basically stabilized. And one of the main purpose of part one of, which is a framework, should be to stabilize the vocabulary. And it may conflict with some existing definitions. But there was no standard before. So it's difficult to avoid that. And it will be one of my first topics when I will present it in the next 15 minutes, my presentation, saying that the problem is with section 3, the vocabulary that needs to be fixed.
Yeah. Right. So let's move on to the final question, which is, considering the evolving nature of technology and the social attitudes towards age-related data, how should the terminology evolve to reflect emerging challenges and opportunities in the field of age assurance?
Well, I believe that the two terms, age verification and age estimation, once stabilized, once defined, will be able to solve the problem. But I'm sure that some text will find the wording not adequate, but the wording will be a technical wording, which needs to be understood as being different from the wording used in the legislation.
Now it seems that there is a third one, age inference, different from age verification and from verification and estimation. We are reading more and more about age inference as something different from verification and estimation.
Well, at the first meeting, there was a person from Switzerland asking to add age inference. And at that time, it was considered as a different technology. And I have proposed to put it under the umbrella of age verification because it was able to support the same kind of assurance that you can get with age verification in terms of accuracy of the age attribute. Binding is something different, but the accuracy, because if someone has a credit card, you know, and if the bank is trustable, you have done the right verification, you know that the person is over 18. Well, it doesn't have the same granularity that when you use a document that bear the date of birth of the person, because you can make verification with any value, but at least 18, which is very useful, you can make that verification. So I recognize that it's a subcase of a different method under the umbrella of age verification. And I recognize that you can have an accuracy of 1 day using a document that bears the date of birth, or an accuracy of 1 day for some age limits when you have physical device or a document that can prove that the person is over an age threshold value.
Yeah, all right. So any more comments on these final questions? Or any online guests have any comments on these final questions? Otherwise, we can, I think this will be the end of our first sticky notes session.
Could I ask that
Yeah.
Because I'm genuinely quite neutral on the terminology that is included in the standard. I think the one that's best should be included. But I feel like it would be interesting to hear from people online or in the room if you have an opinion on age assurance versus age control / age check. Not to put people on the spot. But it'd just be interesting to get a sense of where if there is any consensus or if there are any strong opinions, or are other people kind of yet to be persuaded.
I think that for me, the same as for you, I don't have a strong opinion. But as I told before, I think that control can be a little tricky for some groups. And I think that I should think more about it, but perhaps control is the purpose, is the aim, is the goal, and assurance is one way to achieve it. I don't know. I would need to think about it a little more, but I have doubts at the moment if control is the goal, is the purpose, and assurance would be one stage or step or phase inside this control. I have to think about it. But I don't have strong feelings as long as the definitions are clear and standardized, which is the aim here.
Sure.
Because I think that is something that we need at this moment, clear definitions for everyone, participation in the ecosystem. But I don't have a strong opinion at the moment.
There's something online.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, Shaker says, where age assurance, this is an umbrella term referring to method for ensuring the age of users online platform with varying degrees of certainty. It describes tools or approaches that help estimate or assesses a user's age and therefore allow services to be tailored to the needs of access to be restricted where required. And for the age verification, this is any method designed to verify the exact age of users to confirm that a user is over 18, for example. It refers to the process of determining someone's age by checking against trusted data, such as driving license or passport. And for the age estimation, a method designed to estimate the age rank of a user often by algorithm means age estimation can be used to quickly estimate an individual age without revealing the identity. Yeah.
Can we ask where those definitions come from?
Yeah. Where does this definition comes from? I don't know.
They come from, I think, the current document. And the problem is that, for example, age verification to know the exact age is inappropriate because you don't need to know the exact age of the person. So this definition is wrong.
Yeah, and I don't agree with the last one about age estimation, because if you are estimating age, for example, with faces, you can reveal the identity of the data subject.
And you don't have also a wording saying, and it's that verification or that estimation relates to the right individual and to the binding, and it does not incorporate the binding aspect, which is equally important as the accuracy.
Yeah.
So it's a problem.
Yeah. I think that answers my question, which is there's not a load of consensus yet, but that's fine.
I would like to finish possibly with one of the arguments I already raised. You cannot have a definition in an ISO document saying age estimation, an umbrella term saying things like that. This is not appropriate. And when you have, for example, age verification or age estimation, they say, this is any method. No. In ISO, it should be age estimation method. Then you have any method and something like that. It's a method. It's not age estimation, it's not the right definition. Age estimation method, then you can say it's a method. But you cannot So it's inappropriate in an ISO definition to have that kind of definition.
So it sounds like, because these definitions are not the same, but similar to the ones in the Online Safety Act. And it sounds like, as you say, it's different contexts for these definitions.
Yeah.
I mean, they need to be different.
Yes.
Yeah, these are definitions written by policymakers.
By the UK government.
Exactly.
Not by
Not
Ofcom, by the way,
yeah,
either.
yeah.
We were implementing the legislation,
Yeah,
not writing it,
It's a
but
different kind of definition than the one you are going to find in the ISO standard.
Okay, 25.
Yeah, all right. Thank you everyone
Great,
for
thank you
coming
so
today.
much. This is it. And you mean most to me.
If you have any notes, you can either give them or take a photo of your notes. I think it's a photo.
Yeah, I don't really have much work.
It's a
Worth sharing.
In a mix of languages.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, it's all.
Half in English, half in Spanish.
It's good. Let me do that.
It's quite interesting how having a language barrier doesn't seem to be an issue. As in,
It's like
it's not like,
crypto.
I feel like in French and Spanish and English, the words are basically the same.
Due to test the fire alarm at 10:30, so it is just a test, so we want you to vacate the building.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, specifically when looking at the family has a different things.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes, I think it's
In
a
other
massive
fields,
ingredient.
yeah. In other fields,
Thank you.
perhaps.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone online.
So invite you in my room.
Is it